My question is,
I do know.
then provide
I
it,
do know
sir?
the answer. I will after this meeting with writing.
You know, I think that you have a grave misunderstanding of how this process works, and your refusal to answer questions here is a contempt of Parliament. And so that is something that we can take up. I know it's great. You take great umbrage in the fact that that a subpoena had to be issued, and that had you not appeared today, a warrant would have been issued, and you would have been arrested and brought before this committee. So you're here very much not because you want to be forthcoming. You're here only under the threat of arrest. So that's what we're dealing with and trying to get answers from you. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't believe you, sir, that you're going to bring us the answers after the cameras go off and the committee is adjourned. Because in your first back and forth that you and I had, you know, you admitted to having perjured yourself in a previous appearance at this committee. So I have to go back and talk about that again. You admitted to meeting officials in private residences, and you exposed your own lie. And so I need to know, what are the names of government officials that you have met with anywhere outside of government offices? Just the names.
First of all, I want to address the first thing you said, where I don't want to be here because I want to be arrested. I don't want to be here because my family and myself and my kids have been threatened. And people feel like that's the real reason why I don't want to be here.
The question is very straightforward. It's for a list of names.
Yeah, which I'm happy to give you, and I'm admitting I will give you those within 24 hours after the testimony.
I don't believe you. Did you ever meet with Philip Johnston in a private residence or any place other than a government office?
I've met with Philip Johnson outside of work, yes.
Where?
At a pub.
When?
2021.
We're going to circle back to that.
Right.
Have you ever met with Min Doan in a private residence or anywhere other than a government office?
No, I have not.
Same question. Cameron McDonald.
I have met him outside of work. We heard the testimony 3 times.
When and where, sir?
I'm happy to provide that information in 24 hours. I don't have that in front of me.
Same question. Antonio Utano.
Yes, I have.
When and where?
Again, I will get you that information.
Kelly Belanger.
I have never met with Kelly Belanger outside of work.
Mark Briard.
Yes, I've met with Mark Briard outside of work.
When and where?
I'll get you that information.
So this is interesting, and so again, you'll have to excuse my my unwillingness to take at face value that you're going to provide us information after, because I asked you these questions when you appeared before this committee before, and you said that you hadn't met with officials, government officials outside of government offices. That, sir, and you can check with your lawyer or with a dictionary, is a lie. It's perjury. At your first appearance before this committee, you testified that you did not know and were not privy to any hospitality being given to anyone who worked for the government of Canada. Is that true, or is that a lie?
I'm answering your question. I've just given you the names of all the people, and I've agreed that I've actually taken these people. We've been outside of work.
The question, sir, is on hospitality. You had said previously that you weren't privy to information on whether that had happened, and it seems like that's a lie.
No, I'm just telling you I'm privy now to information that happened, and I've agreed that those people I've met outside of work.
So, well, you're agreeing now. You disagreed before, sir. Both in documents and testimony, we now know that you, sir, in fact provided hospitality to Government of Canada officials on multiple occasions. And you lied about it. You lied about it, but you lied about it to the committee. If you're content that everything was well within the bounds, if you've acted above board, my question to you, sir, is why is it every time you come to this committee do you lie to parliamentarians and you lie to Canadians?
I'm telling the truth. I have met with all of those people outside of work in a hospitality manner.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Sousa, please. For
Chair,
5.
just a point of order. There were a number of instances, obviously, during Mr. Barrett's questions in which the witness point blank refused to answer questions. I wonder if you, as chair, can, on behalf of the committee, direct the witness to provide answers to the questions that were asked.
Mr. Firth, I think there was a couple you said that you had but would not provide at this time, but we're going to wait till later to provide for us.
That was just the information for the resources of the people, Canadian officials for those certain departments. I'm providing those within 24 hours. The contacts, yes. Like I'm not saying no to any of these questions. I'm just saying I will provide them after.
Do you have? But I guess the question is, do you have that information now with you?
I don't have the information with me right now. That's part of the reason why I'm asking for 24 hours to collect it.
Okay. Yeah, just bear with us.
That is not what the witness said. The witness said, in fact, that with the way the meeting is going, he wasn't prepared to provide them in public.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Firth,
that was actually
Mr. Firth, that is. I heard as chair, I have the information, but I'm not going to provide it right now. I'll provide it later in writing, which is different than I don't have the information now. I think you need to be very, very clear with your answers.
I will be very clear.
I don't have this information available to me now. I'll provide it later, or I'm not willing to provide it at this time.
Thank you, Chair. I'll clarify. I have the information, not with me at the present, and I will provide it within 24 hours when I need to collect it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Firth. I realize it's difficult, but I just ask you please take the time to clarify these things carefully. Mr. Sousa, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Firth, are you aware of cases of bid rigging in the past?
No, I'm not.
In 2009, there was charges of bid rigging between some firms in Ottawa. Was Veritech one of them?
I think there was one of 5 firms, I think, with bid rigging associations. I think so. I think there's been 2 cases. I think there's a previous one with TPG as well, and I think there was another one. I think there's been 2 in all the cases. In all the time since 2003, I think there's only been 2 cases of bid rigging.
And were you involved in any of those cases?
No, I was not.
During your time recently, have you been approached by the Auditor General in her review?
I was emailed to give comment on the pieces that involve GC strategies, which you responded to.
The Ombudsman, did you receive any calls from him?
No, I did not.
How about Mr. Lafleur in his investigation that's ongoing?
He reached out to me and actually took a nice stance of understanding well-being, contributing to this testimony, what it's like, and he's actually sent me the questions in writing that I'm going to respond to.
So you have to respond to him still? That hasn't happened?
Correct.
In regards to your earlier testimony around omnibuses, is this something that's in relation to what the Ombudsman talked about when it regards to bait and switch? Can you explain this?
No, and an omnibus contract is usually a large one put out by a big agency like a CRA or even a CBSA. And this would be for general IT services, not specific to a technology. And it would incorporate 20 to 30 different categories and different levels of skill set.
Can you explain what bait and switch is?
Yeah, a bait and switch is when a vendor puts forward a bid, they win the bid, and then they'll switch them out for people that weren't on the bid to do the work. Because typically they'll get more money, or sometimes those people aren't available. Depends how long it takes to evaluate the bid.
Has that happened in your case in the past?
No, actually, thank you. Well, the Ombudsman said of the 76% of the resources that did not work on ArriveCAN, we can tell you every single person we put forward that was caught up in a task authorization worked. Nobody we had did not work on ArriveCAN, or anybody we presented did not work on ArriveCAN.
When it comes to ArriveCAN, there's been this $80,000 mention in regards to the establishment, and then it ballooned. And in your case, 11 million is what you say you received. The Auditor General saying 19 million. But can you explain what's the reference to the 80,000 versus what has happened?
I think that was just a proof of concept of us understanding what it would take for paper to go digital. So then it turned into a project. Then all of a sudden it ballooned into PHAC having all these agency requests and policy changes and subsequent amendments after that.
So could ArriveCAN ever be produced to the extent that it has been for $80,000?
No, not at all.
It's okay.
You're integrating with back-end systems. You're dealing with like mainframes. You're using like just alone in what AWS charges for cloud services. That wouldn't even cover a month.
Understood. Mr. McDonald called you to contact Bottler. So Mr. McDonald had a relationship with Bottler before you. Is that correct?
So again, he didn't call me to reach out to Bottler. I was made aware of the situation that the public safety portfolio was having, and at that point, I reached out to Bottler through a LinkedIn communication.
I understand. All right, and then that's when you then went back to McDonald.
So that was when I was working with Bottler to put together a proposal, and at that point, submitted it to the CBSA as a point of reference.
But you didn't receive a contract.
No, I did not.
Nor did Bottler.
No.
And it was a pilot,
Sorry,
but it wasn't. There was no completion. Is that correct?
Yeah, it started. It was actually a feasibility study. It was just to see if this would even integrate into CBSA and whether it would be adopted. My understanding was that the first two components were done, which was what they were paid on. It was the second and third part that was never asked for.
So who paid them though? You didn't pay them.
I paid them.
Who paid you?
Corradix and Dalian paid me. So they got the margin. I had zero margin on this. I made $0 off Bottler for 2 years.
And so Dalian got a contract with the government relative to the work being done by Bottler on this feasibility study. Correct? And I think my internet's unstable. I apologize. So I want to understand.
Sorry, Mr. Sousa, we're out of time. Can you just finish up with a question for Mr. Firth?
How did Dalian get the contract?
They were advised by the CBSA that there be a task authorization authored to do the Bottler work from CBSA. They had an existing contract in place and asked if Bottler would work with them for that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mrs. Vignola, please, for 2.5.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Mr. Firth, is GC Strategies the only company that you own currently?
So GC Strategies is the only company that services the federal government, correct?
OK, donc d'autres compagnies, mais qui ne...
So you own other companies, but not companies that deal with the federal government. Now, the amounts received. We read in the newspapers that there was a company that used tax havens. Is that part of your personal values to rely on tax havens?
Sorry, I don't rely on tax havens. The other company that I own that's in there, I think, was something in 2004, which is a venture that started about doing car detailing. It wasn't a offshore account or tax haven.
En 2018,
In 2018, GC Strategies released a memo stating that it was associated with a gentleman who was currently a senator at the time, Senator White. In what context did you have dealings with